Kia ora, hi. I've been thinking about rubbish. Sometimes all we want to do is have a bit of fun, but we can create a lot of rubbish in the process. This year I've agreed to help organise our school fair, so I thought I'd go along and talk to some people who've run zero waste events and find out what I can do to reduce waste.
I guess we should start by saying that zero waste is very much a philosophy and a journey. And it's something that you can develop with practice and over time.
I think you need to start thinking about it right at the point that you're actually planning the event, that you get on very early with who your vendors are going to be, what they're going to be serving their food in. You contact your waste company who's going to be picking up the waste and make sure that they have actually got the means to be able to recycle any recycling or to compost any organic waste or any of the bioware, the potato plates, the PLA cups, those sorts of things, because not everywhere in New Zealand can actually take those particular items, so you need to make sure that you've actually got the end of the event for what happens to the waste at the end sorted. And from then on, it's really looking at every piece of waste coming in that either you're bringing in or that the vendors are bringing in, and whether it's necessary to begin with.
So what do you think the reasons people are resistant might be?
A lot of people seem to think it's cost. When they really actually do the research, invest the time in it, they see that it's not really that much different, especially in the long term.
And what's the number one cause of rubbish at the kind of events that you're running?
Food vendors, always food vendors.
So it's food packaging?
Yes, yeah, the food packaging is the worst. More the takeaway containers, the cup that the drink comes in, or the tray that the food comes in, those are definitely the biggest problems.
And how do you think we're doing at the moment in New Zealand with the events you're working at? Are the food businesses thinking about this issue or not overall?
New ones are. The newer they are to the market, the more they've thought about it. It seems to be a part of the culture now when you start up. Some of the ones that have been around for a lot longer are only just catching on to it, and are so the ones that have the most resistance.
Okay, a lack of buy-in is probably one of the biggest challenges an event organiser will face if they're working towards zero waste. I've seen examples in the past where there's been a set of vendor requirements and maybe the vendor has to tick a box to say, yes, I agree to use compostable packaging, for example, and then show up on the day and sure enough the vendor's business as usual, disposable polystyrene packaging. And I guess that's where you really need that buy-in, because vendors have a whole stack of pages normally to read and to sign and to tick off, and sometimes it's much easier to sign and tick all the boxes than to actually put it into practice.
And I suppose they might be ticking those boxes quite well in advance. They might genuinely forget about it later on.
Yeah, sure. And I guess that's it's really great to have that relationship, that buy-in, because you can leverage off that. The vendors in turn take a bit of ownership of the event. They feel like they're part of it. Yeah. They're contributing to the outcomes of the event. If you can, it's a conversation that event organisers should be having with all their vendors on the phone or in person. So many times, if you don't have that person-to-person contact, the message gets lost with all the paperwork.
The other re I use is refusing, which is a really good, it's refuse and it's also refuse. And just, if there's somebody who wants to come and sell food at your event and they're not prepared to follow your guidelines, then refuse them entry. And the next year they'll probably be a lot more open to what you want from that event with regards to waste.
it's about looking at how big is the site and where is that rubbish going to come from, and how do you prevent people from just dropping it on the ground.
And how do you prevent people from dropping it on the ground?
Lots and lots of rubbish bins. People generally won't move to a rubbish bin. It needs to be right there for them, otherwise it just ends up on the ground. So it's lots of rubbish bins.
Hopefully everyone knows the 3 R's, reduce, reuse, recycle, but hopefully we get people thinking about the priorities of those 3 R's, and that reduce is far more important than the other 2, so that they reduce their waste first.
Last year we had the baked potatoes in tin foil, whereas this year we've just roasted them with our oven tray on top instead of covering them in tin foil, and they seem to have worked well, just as good.
If you're able to just think about the item of food that you're selling and what's the way you can have the least possible packaging for it, and then after that, for the packaging that you do have, what's the way that that packaging can have the least possible impact on the environment. If you're selling a slice of pizza, then you don't need a plate, surely just a napkin is enough. If you have a biodegradable napkin, you don't need to worry about any food waste on it. It goes straight into the compost and that'll be fine. So examples like that, things where you just think if all the retailers, if all the stall holders are able to minimize their waste as much as possible, and especially the impact on the environment, then that would be really good.
So what have you seen around in the reusable that
We've
works
been
well?
working with a really wonderful company called Globalit, and they make plastic reusable cups that have got the industry standard sizes for alcohol on them, and the cups can actually be branded with the event's name. In general, most of those cups go home with the people because they really like a souvenir. And we've got one vendor in Christchurch that every time they do really wonderful boutique brewing, and every time Castles is on site now, they actually only serve in reusable cups, and they even offer a refund for people to bring them back at the end so that they can take them all back to their kitchen premises and wash them and get them ready for the next event. So that's been great working with them, that they now produce very, very little waste.
Hopefully once we end up down at the bottom, at the last priority, which is recycling, that they make things much easier by making sure the recycling is not contaminated, by making sure the recycling is well sorted, by making sure that we're getting the highest amount actually go through to the recycling process as possible.
But because a lot of the times the waste companies, what they get from events is far too contaminated, and the whole lot, including the recycling, has to go to landfill. So it's really important to either have a paid crew that are happy to go through the recycling, or volunteers if you can find them, and that will take out all that contamination, or you have volunteers standing at your waste stations continuously throughout the event. That can be problematic because each of them needs to know exactly what is and isn't, and they have to be volunteers that are engaged with that process.
So how have you been finding that people have been managing with the zero waste bins?
Well, it's really different. Yesterday and today's quite different. Yesterday there was a lot of sorting for people. They didn't know what could be composted. They were confused by the various different sorts of plastics. Today I'm noticing there's quite a big difference. Obviously when people have brought their rubbish in yesterday and it's been explained to them what can be broken down and compost, what's recyclable, what's landfill, they've actually taken that on board and they're actually doing a lot of the sorting themselves today. So it's great, wonderful.
The other risks are, of course, that you'll go to all the effort of recycling and then for some reason it will be rejected when it gets to the recycling yard. And I've had that happen to us, and it's heartbreaking to tell your staff that they've just, sorted through, and because of one decision about one item, then it gets rejected. And so But even if that happens, you take on that knowledge and you go, well, next time we're going to start earlier and we're going to make sure that we even go to the recyclers firsthand and take that item in and say, hey, are these acceptable? Do they need to be washed first? You know, how do you need them? Because that can be the biggest problem, is it's really hard to get clean recycling at events. So,
I mean, there are a number of ways that you can tackle the problem of contamination depending on what items you're serving. So if you're serving anything that is especially messy, a curry for example, it's really helpful if you're able to serve your food in 100% compostable packaging.
One of the things that I'm finding today is when people are finding they've got the wrong sort of plastic or plastic bags, glad wrap, tin foil, they have to put it in the landfill one, they go, oh damn it, they feel like they've failed for some reason and they're really getting on board with it, so it's just wonderful.
That's
absolutely
fantastic.
Great.
And whose idea was it to string these pieces here as an example of what can go in the compost bin?
Well, they're the guys doing the zero waste. They've worked with the stall holders this year, and they've got this special stuff that they've made all the plates, the cups, even this particular straw and the utensils out of. They can all be broken down. So it's really, really wonderful.
Yeah.
Really great.
Awesome.
Good working together.